We have an opportunity to get this right. And I know we'll get it right. And I trust you. I trust every single one of you. You know how to do this. You know Iowa starts it. You know that you correct it.
I think it was incredibly disrespectful to Iowans to say somehow their votes need to be, quote, corrected. I think she's trying to provide an excuse for her not doing well.
I mean, she was making a joke. Everyone knows Trump is going to win the caucus. It's really designed for the Trump voters in the Trump caucus.
All right, you've heard that back and forth on Nikki Haley and her statements about New Hampshire makes fun of Iowa. She said later on that Iowa makes fun of New Hampshire. It's what we do. What's the big deal? That's essentially where she came after that back and forth. Bob Vander Plaats is a very big supporter of Ron DeSantis. You know him as the family leader, president, CEO, very influential when it comes to maybe tipping an election in a candidate's favor. Bob, it's always good to have you. What did you think of that back and forth?
Well, when I saw it initially, when Nikki Haley said, that Iowa needs to be corrected, I saw us kind of waving the white flag, like, I know I'm not going to win in Iowa, so I'm hoping New Hampshire will give me a win. And so, it's kind of a back and forth. It's unfortunate. We know that Iowans take this role very, very serious. They're very savvy voters. And I think January 15 is going to be a big night. And I think the country's going to take a good cue from that night in regards to how all this plays out.
Now, I know you had said a few weeks ago, Bob, that Iowa will rise up against Donald Trump. That might still happen, and you like to remind me that polls are just polls. The caucuses haven't started. But right now, no candidate has had a lead of this size in at least Republican Iowa history. And I'm wondering if you want to dial that back a little bit.
Well, I think what it is, the polls definitely don't match my reality, and I don't believe I get stuck in my own echo chamber. I visit with a lot of people, and if the polls were right, every other person that I talk to would say, I'm voting for Donald Trump. The fact is, most of the people I talk to, they're very complimentary of the former president. They like what he did in his previous term as president, but they also believe 2024 is a must-win election. They believe we need to turn the page to a new generation leader, and they believe Ron DeSantis is that guy. That's why I believe DeSantis, with his organization, I believe he's going to have a very special night, Monday, January 15.
What is a special night?
And it is about expectations.
I'm sorry, Bob. What's a special night for him? Does he have to win outright?
Well, no, I think what I was going to, Neil, is now it's all about expectations.
Right.
I mean, if Trump is supposed to win or get 50 to 55%, I don't see that happening, but he may prove me wrong. DeSantis is supposed to get like 16 to 18%. I think he's going to way outperform those numbers. And Nikki Haley, you got Governor Sununu out here saying she's now going to take a strong second-place finish. I don't see that happening. So I see one candidate in Ron DeSantis who's positioned to outkick his coverage and to outperform his expectations. That would be a big win on caucus night for Ron DeSantis.
Despite your support for Governor DeSantis and Kim Reynolds, the governor, it's not really translated to an improvement in the governor's polls. And I'm wondering if that's not so much your fault as his, that he's just proven to be a disappointing candidate. What do you think?
Well, I don't know about that. I take a look at Governor DeSantis, and this guy is obviously one of the best governors in the entire country. I would say the best governor, but I'd put our own governor, Governor Kim Reynolds, right up there with him. His resume is exemplary. He has served in the military. He's bright. He knows what's facing this country today. I think he's a great candidate. I think it's an unusual primary season. You have a former president in the race as well. And every pollster would tell you it is a hard job to poll today, and especially to poll an Iowa caucus. I will say this, Neil. Ron DeSantis' organization is the best I've ever seen in the state of Iowa. Now, if that produces on caucus night, I think that's the poll that's going to matter, the caucus night poll, January 15.
We talk about this a lot, the evangelical support that the president still enjoys, not only in your state, but elsewhere. And that, I think when I asked you about this, you were a little bit surprised by that, but it persists. What do you think?
Well, I think what it is, first of all, it's out of loyalty. I mean, this guy did a lot of things for the evangelical community, whether it been on religious liberty, moving the embassy to Jerusalem, standing up for the sanctity of human life, the appointment of 3 Supreme Court justices. He did a lot of things that we in the faith community, we applaud. And so we still applaud that. even if we assess this race and say, maybe it's time to turn the page, listen, Neil, I've been a friend of Donald Trump for at least a dozen years. This is not against Donald Trump. This is for the future of this country that we need to win in 24.
He's not too happy with you now.
Well, I know how he operates. He's fine. Okay. The thing is we need a candidate who can win and lead on day one and lead for 2 terms.
Did you get a chance to listen to Joe Biden's speech in Pennsylvania?
I did not get a chance to listen to Joe Biden's speech.
He went back, obviously, to the January 6th event, 3 years ago, and more or less laid out, this is the guy you don't want to return to the Oval Office. That was the gist of it.
Well, that's their playbook. We saw that in the 2022 elections. We saw it in the 2023 election. Nothing's new under the sun with the Democrats. So they're going to completely make this a focus about the past and the referendum. And I believe the 2024 election needs to be about the vision for America's future. And that's why I believe Ron DeSantis has a compelling chance to perform very well on caucus night.
All right, Bob, always good seeing you. Bob Vander Plaats, the family leader, president, and CEO